Hey everybody, what's up and welcome to a very special Onshape step-by-step tutorial. And the reason I say this is special is because we're going to draw up this case here. We're going to start out today by drawing up this lid. But you can see here, this is a nice case. You could hold some guitar picks in there, or maybe you could hold something else in there, whatever you want. And you can see here that this has two pieces, a lid and a case. So we're going to draw up the case today. Now, little pro tip here, if you do 3D print this out, which you can 3D print these parts, if you do 3D print this out, when you go to assemble it, just know that there's a little stopper here to stop the lid from sliding out. So just apply a little bit of pressure from underneath here while you're assembling it, and then it'll slide right in. And that way that lid does not slide out. It just kind of comes out to a certain point and then stops. And then you can slide it all the way in just by pushing that all the way in, and that keeps it closed so that you can take your guitar picks and you can put your guitar picks into that case and keep them in there nice and safe. A fun 3D printing project for you, or a fun 3D printing project for someone you love who plays guitar. Now, this project was actually inspired by one of our student competitors in the recent CAD vs. CAD speed modeling tournament for the high school students at LeGrand High School in LeGrand, California. So each month, I'm gonna do a special practice models challenge for each one of these students who was in this competition. And this month, we're starting out with Smiley, who plays electric guitar. So this is a practice models premium challenge. You can go here to tootalltoby.com. You can say click here to get started. And then if you scroll all the way down to the very bottom here, there's over 130 challenges in here. The challenge number 2501-20 is the lid, and the challenge number 25-01-21 is the case. So we're going to model up this lid here in Onshape, and if that sounds good to you, be sure to hit the like button on this video, and let's get into it here. You can see this is a tier 5 challenge to model up this lid, so there's some kind of tricky geometry in this thing. So I'm going to click here to get started, and go! So what is the mass of this part in x.xx grams? And you can see there's a ton of Toby notes on this drawing, but I think that, as always, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to ask myself, where should the origin be on this model? And I am going to put the origin right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just draw half of the model. So I'm going to actually start out by drawing this shape down here on the right side view. I'm going to create a line that comes over, a line that comes up at an angle, a line that comes straight up, a line that comes over, a line that comes straight down. And then I'm going to extrude that geometry, that first sketch, out to this depth here, this 60 millimeters. And what that is it's the length of this rail here. You've got this rail here. And then once I've got that extrusion done, that'll give me kind of like this chunk of geometry of the part. Then what I'll do is I'll create this extra geometry out here, kind of the nose of the part. I'll extrude that. And then what I'll do is I'll create this shape down here. You see it says radius 2.5, but then it also says, hint, use cut extrude for this shape. So instead of doing that with a fillet, I'm going to do a cut extrude and kind of lop off that corner there. And the reason for that is because when the lid opens, you don't want to have a sharp corner there. You hurt your hand on that sharp corner. So we're kind of like knocking that corner off. And then what I'll do is I'll create this geometry up top here. So I'll create this slot, or this half a slot, this hole, and then the mouth here. This is like Smiley. Yeah, this thing's named after Smiley from the tournament, so we got a little smiley face on here. So I'll create that geometry and just cut extrude through. And then the final geometry is going to be down here on the bottom of the part, these bumps. So I've got a bump here at 0.6 millimeters and a bump here at 0.4 millimeters. And these are the things that keep the lid closed when you slide it into place. Well, the bumps are located here, so I'll create the sketch geometry for these bumps. And then the bumps also have some fillets on them. So you see we've got this radius 1 bump fillet. Well, again, we've got these Toby notes here. And what the Toby notes say is bump fillets note, apply the green fillets first, then the purple fillets. So because the bump fillets are radius 1 millimeter and the geometry that we're filleting is only 0.6 millimeters and 0.4 millimeters, we're not gonna be able to put both fillets on at the same time. So we're gonna make sure that we put those green fillets on first. And in Onshape, there's gonna be this option that says allow edge overflow. We got to make sure that that option is cleared. Now, it doesn't really matter. The print will work either way. But the thing is, if allow edge overflow is not cleared, then what will happen is this edge here will get kind of pushed in this direction a little bit. And then the part just won't like lock closed as well. So you'll still be able to finish the model. It'll still be within tolerance for the challenge, but it might not function quite as well if you have that option checked. checked on. So we'll see what happens when we get to that option. So I know I took about 3 minutes there to come up with a game plan, but I always think it's really important to come up with a game plan before you get started. I think what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to take this and move it over onto my second screen. Let's bring up Onshape here as well. So bring up Onshape here. We'll take this drawing and just move it over to our second screen. Let's bring up the keyboard cam and let's see how long it takes us to create this model. Hopefully you can follow along with, and then when you're done, you too can 3D print this part. But I am going to create this in the public space. So even if you get stuck, you can maybe look up this drawing or this document 25-01-20 space SMILEYS LID. And then I'm going to say create public document. So if you want to, you could try to look up this document. And then I'm going to go up to the hamburger menu up here, hamburger menu, and make sure that my units are set to millimeters, workspace units. Make sure we're working in millimeters here. Make sure we're working in grams here. Hit the green check mark and then follow the game plan. Right plane, S key, begin a sketch, N key, get normal to, S key, line. Single click this point here, move over in this direction, single click, let go on my mouse, and I'm going to type in 34.4 over 2. 34.4 is the total distance there, so over 2. Come down, kind of come down at an angle here, come straight back over to the middle and close that sketch off. Now, a little trick you can use here to kind of make sure that your dimensions are correct is you could create a line and then you could press the letter Q. That makes that line construction. And then what you can do is you could get rid of this dimension and you could create a dimension again here from this line to the construction line, and you could cross over and then make that 34.4. So whatever dimensions are being called out, you can make sure that those dimensions match up. So for example, this overall width here, this is going to be 38.151. And then the angle here is going to be 45. And then the total distance here is going to be 3 millimeters. 3, and there we go. All black, nice, fully defined sketch. That is what your first sketch should look like. So now that we've got that sketch, let's S key extrude. Remember, I like to customize my S key in sketch mode and add the extrude command so I can jump right into the extrude from my sketch. Tab, I'll press the space bar here to flip direction. Oh, it didn't work. Try it again. Opposite direction. Oh, my preview went away. That's not good. Let's put in 60 here for our depth. I think what happened was I pressed the space and I cleared my region here. So let's make sure that that's going in the right direction. All right, so tab. So 60 is going to be the depth for that one. And that is going to be going, I'm going to go back this way from that original sketch. So if you're following along with as a tutorial, this is a good way to get started. So then you could hit the green check mark. You could rename this feature something like 60 millimeter rail section. That's like the main section of the model. And then we could click on this face here, S key, begin a sketch, N key to get normal to, S key to create a line. We could create a line that starts here at this corner, comes up like so, single click, move your mouse away, come back and hold your mouse over that corner, come back again. That lets you create a tangent arc. Single click, you could let go of your mouse and give that a radius of 6.7. And then you can come over here to the middle of the part, single click, down to this corner, single click, and close that sketch off. Now, the only relationship you should have to add is tangent. So you can hit escape to get out of the line command, and then you could click this line, click this arc, and T for tangent. And now S key, dimension, and it's going to be a dimension from the base here up to that highest point. And that distance is going to be 71.7. And the reason some of these dimensions are kind of weird is because the lid has to fit into the box and there needs to be a little bit of clearance. And so when we get to the box, you'll see the dimensions will be a lot more consistent. So 71.7, enter. All right, that looks good. S key, extrude. And now for the end condition here, this is going to go up to face. And that face will be this face right here. And enter, and then you could rename that feature something like nose, so Shift N, nose area. All right, and now we are ready to move on to the next feature, which is going to be this little rounding off of this corner down here. Remember, the hint says do this as a cut extrude, so pick a face, S key, begin a sketch, N key to get normal to, and then we are going to S key, line. You can start here on this edge, single click, move your mouse, single click, move your mouse, come back to that corner, come around like so, single click, make a line here, vertical, single click, hit escape. You can click this line and this arc and press T, click this line and this edge here and press I for coincident. And then you can press the S key and go to your dimension command, and the dimension command is going to be applied here, and we'll make that a dimension of, whoops, S key dimension, that's going to be applied here, and that's going to be a dimension of 2.5 millimeters. And then there's a couple of tricky things you could do here, but most of the time I'll just begin a line command and just kind of close this thing off. Just create a line that goes from there to there. There's certainly lots of tricky things you can do, but that's easy enough to just to create that kind of closed off corner there. So that's what your third sketch should look like. And once that looks good, you can press S key, extrude, and this is going to be remove, and it's going to be through all. And there you go. You've lopped off that corner. So we could call this something like rear lid corner. Maybe I'll call it rear lid corner cut. Rear lid corner cut. So I know kind of what that corner area is. So now we're ready to get into some of these cut extrudes that are going up through the center of the lid. So pick this face, begin a sketch, S key, orient your view, N key. You're going to single click to create a line, single click here, move your mouse, single click again, let go of your mouse. You could type in 13/2, or you could do what we did earlier where we made that construction line, hit escape, S key, line. We're going to single click here, move down, single click, 13/2. Alrighty, and then we can single click this line here, and we can go up here underneath the offset command. So you fly out this command for offset. Underneath the offset command, we've got the slot command. So we can make that a slot, and this number here is going to be 4, so diameter 4. And usually you press enter twice there. And you can see I'm still in the slot command. You can see the command is still pressed down. So all I need to do now is click on this line, and then I can single left click, and that finishes that slot command as well. So now we've got those two slots in there. And certainly we could go in and make these equals relationships and horizontal relationships and things like that. But I think this is fine as well. S key, dimension. We're going to create a dimension here that goes from this line to this point, and that dimension is going to be 12. And from this line to this point, and that dimension is going to be 22. And that is looking good. And so now we're ready to move on to our looks like the eyeball in the smiley face. So single click, move our mouse, single click again, let go of our mouse. That's going to be 6. And then we are going to jump into an arc command. You can use the 3-point arc option, 3-point arc. And so we do 3-point arc here, and we click here and create an arc like so. There's lots of different ways you could do this arc. It doesn't have to be 3-point. But whatever you do, once you're done, hit escape. Make sure that the center point is coincident to this line here. So you press I on your keyboard, and that makes that coincident. And then what we can do is we can start turning this into a slot as well. So we could click here on this arc. We could choose slot, and that's going to be 4 once again. So we can press enter, and I think we're done with the slot command there. So we could do S key dimension, and the dimension here from the center of the hole to this center line here is once again going to be 13/2, 6.5. So 13/2 for that location. And then to the center of that hole to this line here at the end of the part is going to be our 32 dimension, 32. And then to the center of the slot from that back line of the part, that is going to be our 47 dimension. Just looking over at the drawing there on my other screen, 47 to the center of that slot at the bottom. And then the distance from that arc at the furthest distance up to this location here is a distance of 4. And then finally, the width of that slot across the middle is 20/2. 20/2. And look at that, nice fully defined sketch. That is looking good. That is what we are always hoping for. All black geometry, and this is what your, I guess, fourth sketch should look like. 1, 2, 3, your fourth sketch should look a little something like this. So take a look at this sketch, make sure you've got all your dimensions, make sure you've got all your relationships, and if that all looks good to you, then you are ready to move on. So we're gonna do S key extrude, and this extrude is going to be a remove, and this remove is gonna go through all until we can hit the green check mark. And there we go. That gives us all that geometry looking pretty darn good. And so now the final thing that we need to do is add those bumps on the bottom and add those fillets. We could call this one something like top cuts. And now we can roll around to the underside. We can pick this face here, S key, begin a sketch, N key to get normal 2. And now we need to add in those bumps on the bottom. So once again, we can create a line, single click, move our mouse, single click again. We can let go of our mouse. We can type in 4/2, or sorry, 8/2. So 8/2, so 4 millimeters for that line. And then we can do the same thing down here on this end. Single click, move our mouse, single click again. And this one is going to be 6/2. This one's a little bit more narrow. And so now that we've got those two lines in place, what we could do is click on that first line, go to the slot command, and we can say we want that to be a diameter of 3, enter, and enter. and the slot command is still selected, so we can pick this line here, and that picks 3, so you can just left click to finish that one as well. And then finally, you can do S key dimension, and the dimension from this end of the model to this point here at the center of the slot is going to be 4.5 millimeters, and the dimension from this end of the model to the center of that slot is going to be 17.7 millimeters. And so now that we've got those little bumps in place, at least a sketch for those, we can use this sketch, but we're only going to extrude one of these at a time. So S key extrude, and then you can press the space bar to clear your selections, and we'll pick this region here. That is going to get extruded to a depth of 0.6 for that shorter one. And then you can show that previous sketch. So this could be Shift N sketch for bumps. And then this one could be lower bump. And now we can use that sketch for bumps. So you can press S key extrude, and then we're going to pick this bump here, and that one is going to go to 0.4. That one's a little bit shorter to make it a little bit easier to open and close the case. So we could call this one Shift N upper bump. All right, and now to finish this thing off, what we're going to do is we're going to hide this sketch for bumps, and then we're going to S key fillet, and this fillet is going to be 1 millimeter, and the fillet's going to be applied here on this edge. Now, if you watch what happens to this top edge, it's kind of subtle, but the top edge gets kind of pulled in there a little bit. And remember, in the game plan, we talked about how allow edge overflow should be unchecked. So I'm going to uncheck that, and you'll notice that that edge location changes a little bit there when we do that. So we want that edge to maintain its current location, basically. We want to kind of match up to the current location. Again, we're talking about a fraction of a millimeter here. I don't think it's really going to make that big of a difference in the functionality of the 3D print, but it is good to know that it is slightly different. So we're going to use the same thing down here on this one. That's your 1 millimeter fillet. The first fillet that you're going to put in there is going to be the green fillet. So then we hit the green check mark, and then S key fillet, and then the second one you're going to put in is going to go up top here. This one, the edge overflow doesn't matter because it's able to resolve it tangent onto both faces, so it's not going to make a difference. So we hit the green check mark, and once we're done with that, we can choose mirror, and we're going to say the entity to mirror is going to be this part, and then the mirror plane is going to be this face here. It's going to be an add, and that will be essentially a mirror all. And that should pretty much do it for that part. We can press P to hide our planes. We can press Shift P to hide all of our construction geometry. One thing that you can always do when you're working with a customer is you can right mouse button on the name of the part here, and you can say Edit Appearance and make this thing look more like what the customer gave you. Nice bright red there for this part. And then also we can right mouse button on the name of the part and say Assign Material. And we're going to assign a material here that comes from the TTT Custom Material Library, and that material is going to be ABS. And so we hit the green check mark, and now we can look down here kind of behind the clock, and there's this set of scales. You click on that set of scales, and then you click anywhere on the part, and it's telling us that the mass of this part is 6.858. We're going to round that up to 6.86 because we're being asked what is the mass of this part in x.xx grams. So 6.86 grams. So I'm going to come over here to my answer, 6.86, enter, and oh yeah, we did it. We got it correct. 6.86 grams, and that is the correct answer. And so we're going to say submit, and boom. There has been one person who has completed this. Me. We did it. We're the first ones. So we got the fastest time. We got the average time. We got everything. We got it all locked up here. Nikola Tesla. 16:16. I like that time too. So now that you've got this thing completed and you got it correct, the final step that you could do is you could come down here and you could right mouse button on this part 1, and then you could say export. And then from the export here, you could rename this. We'll call this SMILEYS LID V1, something like that, version 1, in case you make changes later. And then down here, you can make sure that this is set to millimeters. You can export this as STL or 3MF, depending on what your 3D printer accepts. But we're going to say STL, and we're going to say export. And then what that'll do is it will take this resolution. Let's make the resolution fine, since we have those really small bumps on there. You want to make sure we get those bumps on there. So, and then download. And so we're going to say export. And so what this does is it lets us download this directly into our computer somewhere. So we're going to download this as an STL. And then once we've got that downloaded as an STL, we can put it into our 3D printer and we can start 3D printing it. You can see here that this is how you want to lay that part into your preprocessor for 3D printing. So if you lay the part in here like this, where the rail is up top and the bumps are up top, it'll print without support. You know, this is a 45-degree overhang. Most 3D printers can handle that. FDM 3D printers can handle that. So you don't need to put support on here for most printers. It'll be able to print that rail without needing additional support. So just drop that into your 3D printer, print that out, and then you can move on in the tootalltoby practice models app. You can move on to the next challenge. So the next challenge in here is going to be the, whoops, let me cancel this. The next challenge in here is going to be the 25-01-21. So click here to practice. And then if we come down here and we say click here to begin, you're going to see that this one is the case. So this is the case that lid slides into. So we've got that same kind of angled slot there, and we can slide the lid right into that case. But we'll save that tutorial for the next video. In the meantime, enjoy 3D printing your parts. Let me know down below in the comments if you have any questions on this one. Check us out in the Discord. Be sure to like, be sure to subscribe. And thank you so much for being a Practice Models Premium subscriber. This tutorial is exclusive for you. All right, I look forward to seeing everybody in the next one. See you, everybody.